Okay, so the first step in producing your controlled assessment is going to be to analyse the context. So that is analyse the kind of question, the problem that you're going to solve. This is an older context, this is from last year. This is just an example of how it can be done. It's not a pretty good example. There's a lot of detail in this. This section, this whole kind of analysis section at the beginning of this person's folder, this person's context, got full marks. So this page being the first part of that section. So this was good. This was kind of a top marks way of doing it. What they've done is they've put their context in the centre. So the problem they had to solve was how can products be used to educate young children about endangered animals during their visit to the zoo. So what they've done is they've done a massive mind map. They've broken this down into problems and solutions. As you can see at the top there, problems are in red, solutions, kind of first stage solution is in green, and then they've expanded in blue. So what they've done is they've thought about what would make animals endangered. So that's their kind of first level. So the sort of things that would endanger an animal, things like deforestation, global warming, pollution, loss of habitat, loss of species, plastic in the ocean, droughts, and they've said laws on use of products, but things like the use of animal products in manufacturing. So you would do something similar. Obviously, yours is not going to be about zoos, it's not going to be about endangered animals, but think about the key points, those kind of key issues. That would be your first layer. And then if we let's have a look at what they've done there. So they've said pollution here then. So one of the things that they've said you could do for pollution would be to educate using books. So that was their kind of first level solution. And if we look at that, they've gone off and said, okay, if you're going to educate using books, what's the age range of the people who are going to read the books? Cartoon images, a simple story that's interesting. They're going to have relatable images, short, simple sentences, using kind of bold fonts. So mostly they've not really answered questions there. So they've said, like, what is the age range? They've not answered that. That's a question. That's something that they can investigate later on. They said it's going to have a simple story, but they've not said what that story is. They're not thinking too far ahead. They're just kind of thinking of the initial problems, the initial things that they're going to have to research later on. They said they're going to have relatable images, but they've not said what those images will be. So you're not really necessarily answering questions at this stage. There might be some things you know, but you're kind of, this page is to direct you, is to guide you as to what research and what you're going to look at in greater detail later on. So if we have a look at this, say deforestation, so what could you do to help with deforestation? They've said don't waste paper and paper materials. They could educate with a leaflet, and that would lead on maybe to replanting trees. So if they're saying don't waste paper, they're saying like how to save material waste. So how could you save material waste? They're not giving you an answer to that. Again, it's something to consider. Leaflet. If you're going to make a leaflet, you would use environmentally friendly materials. Again, they're not telling you, they're not deciding at this stage what those environmentally friendly materials are. I'm sure they will look at that later if they were going to use that, if they're going to go down that route. If we have a look at something like this one, droughts. So they've said they've got them information boards there, and then they've come off that and said about biodegradable materials. Again, not said what they are, but it's something to consider. So all the way through this, really, apart from maybe one or 2 points, these are just things to consider later, what you're going to look at later. This is just your initial investigation. At this stage, when you do this, you're probably not going to have a firm idea of what you're going to make, what your solution is going to be. You're gathering all your thoughts, all your ideas, sort of initial ideas, you're kind of putting them down, and then from this, you can then kind of focus and say, well, okay, well, what will I focus on? Like, this person is not going to do all this. They're not going to look at deforestation, droughts, loss of species, pollution. They're going to pick one of those, and then they're going to focus on that. But this is just their initial generation of thoughts that they've put down in a mind map. Now, you don't have to necessarily do it as a mind map. You could do it as kind of bullet points. You could do it as lists. A mind map is just a kind of a good way. It's kind of concise. It shows how everything links together. If you're going to do something like this, or even if you're not, even if you're going to do it maybe as a list, it's a really good idea to do what this person's done, which is to use colours. It helps to really kind of simply bring somebody in and kind of guide them, so you can see that, you know, pollution, here's your problem, this is your first level solution, this is kind of your second level solution, so you can see very clearly the path that their thoughts take. Okay, so the first way you can do it is just to enter your information directly into PowerPoint. You're going to use PowerPoint in order to produce your portfolio anyway. So just on the first page, it's probably worth just putting your name and just the context, that sentence of what the problem is you're going to solve. That way, if anybody looks at this, they know exactly what you're doing. And then you can just right click, put a new slide in, and directly enter your the information here. So you can click on a text box, put the context in, whatever your context is, and then from there you can kind of add secondary text boxes. So this would be where you would put the problem, and then you might have another text box where you would start putting those solutions, those questions that maybe you're going to find out the answer to later. You can link them up with arrows, kind of like that. What you could do is go back and maybe make this a little bigger, because this is the main one. Maybe make that one colour, and of course you can go back and change the colour and change the font size of these as well. So you can build up this way. This is probably slightly slow. It can be a little unwieldy trying to do things in PowerPoint sometimes, but the advantage is that it will be there electronically, so if you need to go back and edit it, if you want to make any changes, then that's going to be really simple for you to do. Okay, so another method is to use an online mind mapping tool. So if you search for something like mind mapping online, there's lots of different ones. This one, MindMeister, is one I've used before. So when you first use it, you have to sign in. So you have to create an account. You can use Google or Facebook, I think, or you can create your own account. And then when you first use it, it takes you to like a little tutorial, so you can just get an idea of how to use some of the different functions. It is pretty simple though. So this is just one that I kind of started. So all I've done there is put context. So when you do this, you wouldn't put context, you'd write the actual sentence in place. But it's really easy to use. What you need to do is click on that, and then if you press the tab key, you can start getting all your different branches. So this would maybe be, if we go back to the example, that would be a problem. And then if I tab off that one, I would maybe get a solution. Put a solution there. If I wanted to, I could go back to the context, press tab again, and I could put another problem in. And then I could start putting some more of these solutions in. If I go back to the problem again, I can tab again. So I can start building. Up my mind map like that. You've got couple of different functions there. So if I click on the context there, this is highlighted as text. So I could change the color of the text. If I click on background, I can put different backgrounds into different colors there. The same with things like the problem. Here I can make those different colors as well. There are a couple of other things you can do. For example, there are some presets here, so you can just use those, potentially just use those presets if you wish. You can also, with this one, if you can bound things, so if I click on this and I say click there, it kind of groups everything together again, making it maybe even easier to see that what your branch is. So I could do that there. I could put that one like that. So this is quite a simple tool. It's probably easier to use. You can see it's probably a lot quicker than messing about with arrows and boxes on PowerPoint. The only thing with something like this is just make sure that it's going to be available to you. You don't want something that is going to be like a free trial after maybe 30 days. It's going to lock you out, because if you need to go back and edit this, you're going to have a problem. When it's done, you can copy and paste it into your PowerPoint, and that's how you could present that. So this is just another option for you. Okay, and the third way you can do it would be just to do what this person did here, which would just be to write by hand. There are advantages to doing it this way, it's probably quicker. But the disadvantage, I guess, is if you make a mistake, if you can't correct it, maybe you'll have to start again. So you can't go back and edit this. So perfectly fine if you wish to do it by hand. Feel free, do it on A4 or even better, maybe A3 paper. And then once you get back into school, you can scan it and then just copy that scanned image over into your PowerPoint as your first page.